Oh my god, I just panicked because I didn't know if I turned out my microphone. Hello everyone, my name is Tasha, welcome to my video. It's that time of the month. It is the end of July. That means it is time for my July wrap-up. I have read quite a few books this month and I'm really impressed with myself. Thinking back to last month, I read 4 books, which back then I thought was really good because I've been slacking a lot this year with my reading. This month I read a total of 10 books, including 1 audiobook, 1 graphic novel, and 2 quite short books. But still, 10 books. Part of why I probably read that many books is the TBRTAKEDOWN that I participated in the past week. I read a total of 5 books in that. So, yeah, let's get started. The first book I finished in July was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Oh, just great. My battery's close to dying. Damn it. Okay. Let's continue. I started this book at the end of June and then finished it in the beginning of July. I uploaded a book talk about this. I will link it down below where you can check that out. I really liked this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 star rating on Goodreads, and yeah. Next I read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I had seen people talk about this book and seen edits and things on Tumblr for such a long time. I've been meaning to read it for a long time. I had this book for a long time and I finally read it and I loved it so much. The ending just made me cry and I could not stop. It was beautiful, it was sad, it was such a good book. That's how I like my books. Beautiful, heartbreaking. For some reason the heartbreaking books are even closer to me. I gave this a 4.5 star review, I think. Didn't give it the full 5 stars because there were a few bits in this book that were a bit boring, but it's still an amazing book. The next book I read in July is The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. The only reason I bought this book was because it was really cheap on Amazon, the ebook version. It was like €1, I think, like really cheap. And I quickly looked it up on Goodreads to see if it had like horrible reviews, which it didn't, so I got it. I wasn't a big fan of this book. I really liked the premise of it. The Invisible Library is it's hard to explain. I mean, I'm really bad at explaining. Anyway, how do I explain this? So the Invisible Library is this huge library thing. It has every book in it. Like, every book. It's like this alternate universe thing with all the books that exist. And if they don't have a book if they don't have certain books, they send out agents that will retrieve these books from different timelines and different worlds. I hope I explained that right. So it follows this girl, Elena. Was it Elena? I think it was Elena. She is supposed to retrieve a book in London, like some alternate universe London. There's also dragons in it, and fairies, and werewolves, and magic, and the language with this language she uses, it's kind of like magic, I think. She can make things happen. It's a really weird book. I gave it a 2-star rating on Goodreads. When I read the premise about like agents looking for books and trying to retrieve books for this really special library. It sounded really cool, but it was really all over the place, I feel. And yeah, I didn't really like it. And the next book I read was The Miserable Mill from the series of Unfortunate Events series by Lemony Snicket. As I've mentioned in my favorite childhood books video, I started the series when I was younger, never actually finished it, so that's what I'm gonna try and do now. This was a really quick read. I rated it 2 stars, not because it was bad, but it's not that special, it's a good book. I also listened to an audiobook this month. I already talked about it in my thoughts on audiobooks video. It was 8,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The ending had me lying in my bed and just screaming because I did not want it to be over. I'm not a big fan of Paul. I don't know why. Maybe I still have my mind set on how he was seen in the beginning of the book as the bad guy and whatever. Yeah, I don't really like him. I'm more of a fan of Theo, even though there was like this whole twist about him. I do want to get the physical book and actually read it and see if my mind might change if I read it myself. I'm still not too sure about audiobooks, so yeah. Now let's get to the books that I read in the TBR Takedown. The first book I read was Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I read this book as my out of my comfort zone book, and I absolutely loved this. I hadn't seen the movie. I didn't want to see it before reading this book. I'm glad I didn't, because this was so good. I really did not expect to like it this much, because this isn't something I usually read, like mystery thriller thing. I got through it really quick, like in 2 days. The first 2 days I finished this book. I gave this a 4.5 star rating on Goodreads. I was blown away. I knew certain things already because of Tumblr. Obviously, Tumblr spoils everything. But I still really, really enjoyed this. After this chunk of a book, I wanted something short, so I read The Tales of Beetle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. This was my book for been on my shelf the longest. I finished this in like an hour, I think. I think it was an hour. It was a really quick read. I quite enjoyed it. I gave this a 3 out of 5 star rating on Goodreads. I quite enjoyed it. I honestly would have almost preferred it without the notes by Dumbledore part. Like just the story, the fairy tale telling things. But I still liked it. My third book I read in the TBR Takedown was The Piper's Son by Melina Marchetta. This was my book for a sequel, although this technically isn't a sequel, but a companion novel, but I made it count. This is a companion novel to Saving Francesca, and it follows the story of Tom Mackey. It follows him as he struggles, like 2 years after, he still struggles with the death of his uncle and the relationship between his father, and he lives with his aunt Georgie, who is pregnant by her ex-husband. I think they were married. Ex-husband or ex-boyfriend. And she's pregnant by him. It took me a while to get into this book. It was a quite slow start for me, but then suddenly I was so immersed into this, and I was like enjoying it so much, and then suddenly it was over, and I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4 out of 5 star rating. I enjoyed it a bit more than Saving Francesca. 2 books left. Next in the TBR Takedown, I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I don't think I have to explain what this book is about. I'm pretty sure almost everyone knows it. Before reading this, I noticed I was getting really excited to read this because so many people love this book and I've been meaning to read it for a long time, and I was getting really excited, and I tried to calm that a bit because I didn't want to get too excited and then get disappointed. You never know. It's happened before to me. I started reading it. The start was a bit slow for me. I have a few thoughts on this book. I plan on filming a book talk about this book. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below if you would like to see that. I've written down some things while reading it. I did really enjoy it. I gave it a 3.5 star rating, although it is close to a 4-star rating. The last book I read for the TBR Takedown and in July, I actually finished Throne of Glass yesterday, the last day of TBR Takedown, at like 11 p.m. So I had an hour to finish a last book. And I initially planned on reading The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, but I knew I wasn't going to finish that in an hour. So I changed my plans and I read a graphic novel, Suicide Squad. This is the new 52. I don't know what that means, but that's what it says on the title thing. I managed to finish it exactly at midnight. I was so proud of myself. I kind of enjoyed it. It was my first graphic novel. For me, it was a bit confusing. I don't know if that was the comic itself or if I just wasn't that well known in the Marvel universe and all that kind of stuff. Is it Marvel or DC? I might be getting it mixed up. I'm very, very, very sorry. I'm not that immersed into these universes, so maybe that's why I was a bit confused. I did still enjoy it, especially Harley Quinn. I gave it a 2-star rating. I will eventually read the other volumes too, I guess. Those were all the books that I read in July. I am quite proud with myself that I managed to read that many. Tell me in the comments below some books that you read in June. Tell me your thoughts on that book talk about Throne of Glass. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Check out my social media, and I will see you next time. Bye!